The Colts dropped this one at home, but depending how you want to look at it, there's plenty of reason for optimism moving forward. We'll sift through all of that right now, though. Let's get to it.
You are Locked On Colts, your daily Indianapolis Colts podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right. Thanks for tuning in and making us your first post-game listen. This is your daily podcast covering your Indianapolis Colts, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And today's show is brought to you by PrizePicks. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL and use code all lowercase Locked On NFL to win $50 instantly when you play just $5. What's up, guys? This is Jake Arthur and Zach Hicks of HorseshoeHuddle.com. I am your Colts media member for the site, and Zach is our resident film expert. And today we are here to commiserate with you guys about the Colts dropping their yet another Week 1 game. This one 29-27 to the Houston Texans. Of course, the division game. The Texans ended the Colts season in Week 18. You don't want to lose this one, but don't you guys just start your NFL calendars with an L for the Colts every year? It'll eventually be all right. You just know you got to get this first one out of the way. But no, today we're going to talk about a really explosive day for Anthony Richardson, and then we'll look at the offense and defense, just what went great in this one, but what really went wrong to kind of lead to this narrow loss. So, Zach, first up, let's talk about Anthony Richardson. Really kind of a peculiar stat line, I'll be honest. So Houston dominates time of possession, literally 40 minutes to 20, which doesn't really let the Colts get in a rhythm. Plus, the Colts had some huge, quick drives for long touchdowns. That really just led to an abridged version of an offense today. Anthony, 9 of 19 passing, only 47%. But then you go over to 212 yards, which is an 11.2 yards per attempt. I think you'll take that, And then he had two touchdowns, 1 interception, was sacked a couple times. And despite completing less than 50%, still had a passer rating of 101.2.
Yeah, what an experience it was watching Anthony Richardson. It felt very similar to the Rams game last year, where things were missing really bad early in that Rams game. He had an early turnover, which killed the Colts offense in that Rams game too. And in that game, it was a fumble. It wasn't an interception, but same thing, turnover on the other side of the field. Same thing happened in this one, through a pick in the red zone, which I'm sure we'll get to in this segment as well. But overall, the second half comes around. The Colts need a superhero performance from their quarterback because they just did not have anything whatsoever going their way. And Richardson gave him that superhero performance. It just wasn't enough to get the win. But at the end of the day, man, again, this is the youngest starting quarterback in football, a player who has started not even 24 games since high school. Like, there's a lot of learning to be done with this young player. And we've already seen it in 2 of his full NFL games that he's played. The only 2 games that he has started and finished in the NFL, we have seen him drag a team back from having no right to be in the game whatsoever.
Double-digit deficits.
Yeah, double-digit deficits in both. I don't know if it was double-digit in this one.
Double score.
Yeah, I think it was 2 scores in this one at one point. But we've seen it in the 2 games that he's finished. Now, the next part of the equation is not getting into that deficit, which is surely a big thing. But that's a special thing that we're seeing from this young quarterback. So for a first game of the season, man, I'm like yes, there's some room to improve on, but that's what you want to see from your young quarterback. 11.2 yards per attempt. That's Matt Ryan MVP numbers from yards per attempt. You don't want to rely on the deep ball every single week because it's a very volatile type stat. But when you have a quarterback who can do the things that he can do, you always have a chance to win in the NFL. So overall, I mean, again, we're going to go into the nitty-gritty details here with Anthony Richardson, but overall, very optimistic from what we saw from this young quarterback. Some things to clean up for sure. The offense needs to be better too going forward in general. But the young quarterback gave the Colts a chance in this one, and they came just short against an AFC contender, because of his superhero play in that second half.
Yeah, I thought overall a very positive day. Don't want to totally let him off the hook. Like, there were some missed opportunities. Obviously, the first deep touchdown, would-be touchdown to A.D. Mitchell, just didn't connect. We'll add some context to that here in a minute. There was a couple other big missed plays to Mitchell as well. Those two just obviously not quite on the same page yet, which they're both essentially rookies at this point. But just, again, kind of a fascinating day because Houston, which historically has just gotten the beatdown from Jonathan Taylor specifically, did a really good job against Taylor and overall shut down the backfield run game, from the running backs at least. Taylor just 3 yards a carry. But Richardson picked up that slack and gave the run game life. 56 yards, a 9.3 yards per carry average, and a really tough, hard-nosed touchdown from 3 yards out late in the game. In what Richardson called after the game, he said, Shane Steichen said that's a gotta-have-it opportunity. And that's when he really wants to let Anthony Richardson throw caution to the wind and get those tough yards, the gotta-have-it opportunities. And that was successful. So I was curious. Obviously, the passing, only 19 passes. There were some good ones in there, some bad, obviously. What do you think of his running usage, though? Like, both by design and the ones where he chose to scramble on his own?
Really great design. All the run plays. I mean, obviously, once we get the all-22 film, we can put our specific names on each one of these and stuff, and all those, like the veers and the QB lead options and stuff like that. But overall, I think they're really great designs. Got him out in space. Got it to where he could have slid. I mean, I wish he would have slid on a couple of them, but I do like that he is starting to look a little bit more like the Lamar Jackson, Jalen Hurts style of running, where when he's absorbing the contact and falling with his own momentum rather than trying to stay up and having that big man fall and hurt yourself that way. So he took some violent hits in this game. I'm glad he got up from them. If anything, this game showed that hits, like injury luck, is mostly just luck, because he took like 5 more violent hits in this game than he took in any of the games last year, and popped up from each of them in this game. But yeah, I think the QB running total was fine. 6 carries. I know like 2 of them were scrambles. So those were ones that he created for himself. So really like 4 designed runs for him compared to like 19 to 21 dropbacks, because he had the 2 sacks as well. So overall, I think that's a good disparity. Obviously, when you have more plays on offense, you will have more things in there to go for to split that out a little bit better. But yeah, I think that was a good split for him. I did want to touch on, again, we have the volatility of Anthony Richardson, where we have the high highs and the low lows, but the special throws, man. Like the first throw to Alec Pierce. There's maybe 2 quarterbacks in football that can make that throw. We feel comfortable saying Josh Allen and Pat Mahomes can make that throw, but like, how many other guys can make that throw on a line like that? I mean, that ball was perfectly placed to Alec Pierce. I think a friend of the show, Kenan Kasenko, said something to me during the game that it was the longest air yards completed pass on a non-Hail Mary since like 2016. Like, that's just insane. And maybe even a better throw was the layered throw on the deep dig to Ashton Dulin, where Dulin did the rest, obviously, and finished the play. But I mean, that type of play right there is something we haven't seen from a Colts quarterback since Andrew Luck. Just the ability to hit that deep dig, layer it over a linebacker who is helpless with the velocity and the speed of that, and then giving your receiver a chance after the play too. And then obviously the deep ball to Pierce late in the game. Like, yes, that was, a jump ball down the field to him against a safety, but like, to even give him the chance there, I mean, to get the ball 60 yards down the field to Pierce, I mean, these are one-of-one plays. And you take the missed throws if you're going to get these type of moments from your quarterback. Obviously, you want to fix the layups portion of the offense, but the 3-point game is looking great right now for the Colts. So, I'm taking that right now. Obviously, you got to clean up some other things underneath, which we have a little bit of time to still talk about. But those special throws, man, if you can just build off the special and make the routine look routine, I mean, I'm so hopeful for this quarterback. I'm so hopeful because those special plays were so special.
Yeah, and I'll do you one better on that deep dig to Dulin. After the game, Richardson told us that wasn't even really where they envisioned the ball going when they had that play dialed up. That's not where it was going to go. He just happened to see Dulin coming open across, and he's like, oh, I got to give him a chance there. So that's, part of the mental aspect of Anthony, taking a little bit of freedom with what he sees out there, which, of course, you want that. I just wanted to say really quick, I feel like there's a million things, and people are going to get to it if they haven't already. The officiating, I thought, was odd. One thing, though, like, it's very real that I don't want to call Anthony a running quarterback because that's not what he is. He's a quarterback who can run. Those guys don't get the generous calls. I thought there was one or two plays in this where they just didn't do a good job of enforcing protection for the quarterback, and other quarterbacks who were maybe more prototypical passers would maybe get it. That one sack, if there was no penalty, I thought maybe at least the Colts lineman should have said something about it, or said, hey, friend, don't do that again, in the most gentle of terms, of course. But the play on the sideline, I thought that was unnecessary. I did not like that. I'll be honest with you. But that's probably just a forward for everybody. That's probably going to be a theme throughout the year, unless the Colts start to complain to the league about it. I don't know that Anthony's going to get some of those calls that he probably should.
Yeah, it's the Cam Newton rules. If you're a bigger quarterback and you look like you can absorb those hits, you're allowed to get a helmet to the head and suplexed or whatever in the backfield. Overall, I'm not too concerned about those with officiating. More of the clear dropped pass over the middle before halftime, and then whatever the heck the rest of that sequence was before halftime, and some other things. But it's officiating. We can't really rely on that to win games or lose games as part of the game. Like, by no means was that the deciding factor. When we get to the Colts offense and defense in our next two segments, we'll start talking about why the Colts actually lost this game, because this first segment was the only reason why the Colts were close was Anthony Richardson. The other two segments we're about to talk about, the rest of the offense and the defense, that's why the Colts didn't win this game ultimately.
Well, without further ado, let's go ahead and get to those areas. Offense first. But first, a word from our friends over at PrizePicks. One Caleb Williams passing yard gets you a win on PrizePicks every week in September. That's right, just 1 yard gets you an automatic W every football weekend in September. That's 4 weekends of free W's. Don't miss the deal on PrizePicks, because it's gone when September ends. Green Day, we're talking to you. You can now win up to 100 times your money on PrizePicks with as few as 4 correct picks. PrizePicks is the best way to get action on sports in most states, including California, Texas, and Georgia. PrizePicks is the only real money daily fantasy platform with an injury insurance policy, so that your lineups stay in play even if one of your players gets injured. If your player leaves in the first half and doesn't return, PrizePicks makes sure that your plays are still alive and that you can still actually win something. So download the PrizePicks app today and use code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 instantly when you play just 5. That's Locked On NFL on PrizePicks to get $50 instantly when you play 5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus, because it's guaranteed. PrizePicks, run your game.
And this show is also sponsored by our friends over at BetterHelp. What's something that you would love to learn? As an adult, do you make time to learn new things as often as you like, or was that lost in childhood? Kids are always learning and growing, but as adults, sometimes we lose that curiosity. What's something that you guys would like to learn? Gardening, a new language, or maybe how to finally beat your friend in bowling? Therapy can help you reconnect with your sense of wonder, because your back to school era can come at any age. I mean, for a lot of you guys listening, I think the one thing we can all learn is yards per attempt is a much better metric of quarterback play than completion percentage. See, that's one thing I just taught you guys right there. We can learn so much, and BetterHelp is here to help you. If you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapists anytime for no additional charge. Rediscover your curiosity with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/LockedOn today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOn. All right, Jake, so I'm going to run through the positives real quick on offense before we get to the scathing parts of this offense, because the offense was clearly outcoached and outdesigned by the Texans defense. Texans defense took away a lot of what the Colts were trying to do, and it took Richardson and 2 other players on offense really to carry this team forward to keep it close. But those 2 other players were Ashton Doolin and Alec Pierce. I mean, just a first shout out to Pierce, man. This guy has been the subject of a lot of vitriol over the years. And not all of it's undeserved. Obviously, Pierce could have been more consistent his first 2 years in the league. He could have been better overall as a receiver. And I understand some of the sentiment towards him, but he came out today and showcased why he is a solid NFL player. And that is, he has one dominant trait. That one dominant trait is you give him that jump ball down the field, he's going to make the play. He perfectly ran under that first Richardson pass and then made the play of the game on that jump ball on the second Richardson pass. 3 receptions for 125 yards in this game on a season pace right now of 51 catches for 2,000 yards. So, look, I'm just saying, Cooper Kupp, watch out. Like Cooper Kupp, your record is in jeopardy right now if Alec Pierce keeps this up here. And then the other man of the hour, Ashton Doolin, 1 catch for 54 yards and a touchdown. Fantastic yards after the catch on that deep dig from Anthony Richardson to score the touchdown. Really great seeing him come back from that injury that he suffered last year and make a big play like that. But those are the big positives on offense right here. And there were 2 of my favorite players, so I'm feeling pretty happy right now, Jake. But the rest of this offense, I think there is a little bit of room to grow for sure.
Yeah, man. Shouts out to Pierce for the Randy Moss stat line on that. That's really good. But I'll eat crow in this one. Going into it, I said, the one thing I'm really confident in is the Colts being able to run the ball in this one. Like I mentioned, Jonathan Taylor historically has done great against them. 188 against them just in Week 18 last year. So didn't go well this time. He had 48 yards on 16 carries, which is 3.0 average, and 1 touchdown, only a long of 7. We normally see him start to churn it out and get like 2 or 3 carries of about 10 plus yards. I didn't think the line did a good job of helping him out. There were a couple times there where I thought maybe he could have bounced somewhere else, like the 2-point conversion, for example. Yes. Thought he maybe could have kept that outside, or there's just, I don't know. It seemed like maybe he left the play out on the field. I don't want to totally put it on him, but, it kind of is what it is. But yeah, Kylan Granson, again, I really don't want to make it feel like we're just giving Anthony like a pass for everything. The interception does go on his record, but I mean, on that interception, it looked like it was going to be a very catchable ball for Granson until he began falling.
One of his most accurate passes of the day. I mean, look, again, the deep passes were great from Richardson outside a couple misses here and there, but like on underneath stuff, he wasn't very accurate. And that was one of his most accurate passes and ends up being an interception because Granson fell down. I mean, sloppy, man, sloppy. And I do want to give a shout out to the Texans defense and D'Amico Ryans, because we were banging the drum all week saying the Colts' key to success in this game is establish the run, inside zone, split zone, inside runs, build your RPOs off that, keep it nice and simple, and then you can, occasionally hit some deep balls. Well, obviously the Texans knew that as well, because they came out, base defense, stacking the box, taking away those inside runs, eliminating the RPO game with odd looks and staying on top of those tight ends. And the Colts really didn't have an answer for it. They got away from the run game a lot. They had really no RPO game whatsoever in this outing. I mean, it worked a couple times, but the Colts really had no RPO game at all. And again, the only reason they were in this game is because Richardson was able to make some superhero type plays throwing the ball down the field. Overall, the Texans defensive staff and defensive players outperformed and outcoached the Colts offensive staff, which hopefully we don't have to say that too much this year, because I do think Shane Steichen's a fantastic coach and I think they're going to be fine overall. But this was definitely a learning experience for Shane Steichen, because he's gotten the better of D'Amico Ryans in the past. I mean, in week 2 last year, he got the better of D'Amico Ryans. He did not in this game whatsoever. And the Colts were just beat down on offense. And again, if it wasn't for Richardson hitting some superhuman plays, this could have been easily like a shutout or a 7-point game or something like that. So big shout out to the Texans. They came out, they punched the Colts offensive line in the mouth. Really not a great game from the Colts in the trenches on both sides, which we said was the biggest advantage the Colts had going into this game. And you're not going to win many games in the NFL where you're getting just beat up in the trenches like that. Again, they were only in this game because of those superhuman plays. Yeah,
Anthony's ability with his legs became the most important part of the run game because of what they were doing to Taylor and the offensive line. Of Anthony's 6 carries, 5 of them went for a first down or that touchdown at the end. So they absolutely needed every time Anthony took off to run. That literally moved the chains and helped them keep drives alive. So it was a fine line between a disaster, having a non-mobile quarterback out there, and having the Anthony Richardsons of the world out there.
It closes the margin for error. And this is why I said in the preseason that I think the Colts offense can be better this year than what it was last year, even if it is more volatile, because at the end of the day, you have a superhuman back there. He's going to be able to make play. Like, if everything is going wrong for you when you have Gardner Minshew at quarterback, everything's going wrong for you. That's it. Like, everything's going to go wrong. If everything's going wrong for you on offense, you're getting out-coached and out-schemed and just bludgeoned in the trenches, you have this superhuman guy who's going to make some plays for you. And that's ultimately the only reason why the Colts found success on offense. So major learning experience for the offensive line. Mitchell, I think, had a good game, but get on the same page, obviously, with Anthony Richardson. Taylor needs to be better next week. Shane Steichen needs to be better next week. The tight ends need to be better next week. Even like a guy like Pittman can be a little bit better next week. The only guys who get a pass are Alec Pierce and Ashton Doolin. A+, guys. Alec Pierce, A++ for you, buddy. But yeah, the Colts offense, I think they were able to survive in this game because of those couple big plays. But obviously, this 23 yards per completion is not a sustainable path for success on offense, despite how fun it is. So I do think they need to be better, obviously, going into next week against Green Bay and going forward. But again, we can take some positives from it. It just needs to be better going forward for sure.
Yeah, so that might be the end of the positives before we start talking about the defense, although I'll try and throw you guys a couple cherries in there. All right, we are getting into the fall. The summer is winding down, but, big live events aren't over. Like, I'm literally at Lucas Oil Stadium right now. Come on out to Colts games. You've got the NBA that'll be starting up sooner or later. The Fever are playoff bound. There's still some concerts going on. I have used our friends at Game Time to purchase concert tickets coming up. Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets to your favorite live events even easier. Game Time Picks filters out all the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats so that you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of ticket options. With Game Time Picks, their curation makes it easier to save on more sports, concerts, comedy, theater, whatever. They've got the seat views where you can get a panoramic view from your seat in the app before you buy. They've got the lowest price guarantee, which means if you find comparable seats somewhere else for cheaper, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. And they've got their ticket coverage, which means your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off of your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it?
Game time, baby. It's game time.
Mm-hmm. So, Zach, we're not going to read aloud what I wrote on the outline to start out the defense because this is a family show. But let's just start out with a quick positive because I think it's not going to be a lot of it. So the defensive line really did well in one area, which was rushing the passer, which we said they needed to do in order to win. They did their part there. They got to C.J. Stroud 4 times, hit him 10 times. He looked very clearly uncomfortable throughout a lot of the game. Like, he made some special C.J. Stroud type throws that he's just always going to do. But in general, I thought he looked uncomfortable a lot of the game. So there's that. We're going to move along now to the run defense portion of it. 213 yards on 40 carries, which is 5.3 average and a touchdown. Credit to Mike Chappell and Kevin Bowen. We were all chatting up in the press box after the game. That total is the 6th most in the Chris Ballard era, which is since 2017. And I believe it's the most since 2022 against the Giants. Joe Mixon individually had 159 yards on 30 carries, which again was 5.3 yard average. He had the touchdown. That was the most against the Colts individually since Derrick Henry in 2020. And a lot of people have pointed out Joe Mixon, that feels like about half of his yardage that he had all of last year with the Bengals. So things to work on. I think the biggest bummer of this all was that Grover Stewart was out there, and Grover can't play 100 snaps or 100% of the snaps.
Right, but even if he did, it's not like the Colts were winning those snaps either. I mean, like, look, at least in years past, whenever this kind of thing happened to the Colts defense, it was Grover was out or DeForest Buckner was out. I mean, Buckner was out for some of this game, but he was out there for most of the game. Come on, we saw him out there for
what it's worth. I thought Buck had an awesome game.
He did it, like, again, but there were some snaps where you could clearly watch on run defense him getting blown off the ball too. And
I did see him get rerouted, so to say. Once or twice.
And I do, again, before I get into just crushing the Colts defense here because they deserve it. Hats off to the Texans offensive game plan. The Colts came out fully prepared for no matter what we're going to do, we're going to stop the pass. The Colts actually had a fairly decent game plan for the Texans passing attack. And Nick Cross just turning around on a deep ball away from holding Stroud to a fairly moderate day. They rushed the passer well when they got them in the 3rd and long. I think the Colts pass game plan was fine, but because their whole game plan was around the passing defense, they were just getting bludgeoned in the run game, and there was just no adjustments. The Colts could have gone back to more base defense, but again, if you go back to more base defense, then you open up the passing game for CJ Stroud again, and the Colts clearly didn't want to do that, so they picked their poison, and they died by that poison. And that poison was Joe Mixon just bludgeoning your entire defense. They were coming out with fullbacks. They were coming out in 12 and 13 personnel. They were doing toss plays to the outside with fullbacks and tight ends leading on these defensive backs, as the Colts were just sitting in their base nickel the entire game. And it was just an absolute bludgeoning. And the defensive line was getting destroyed. And look, the Grover and Buckner snaps were better. They weren't good. The Adetomiwa and Taven Bryan snaps were horrendous. Some of the worst snaps you'll ever see from defensive tackles in the run game. The linebacker play was not good whatsoever in this one. Honestly, the only guys who could tackle for the Colts in this game were their secondary players. Honestly, Joe Mixon should have gone for 250 in this game. He goes for 250 if players in the Colts secondary were bad tacklers in this one. But Nick Cross made most of his tackles. Julian Blacken made most of his tackles. And Jalen Jones, to his credit, made a lot of good tackles in the open field against Joe Mixon. This was just a travesty in run defense. I don't think I've ever seen the Colts defensive line and the Colts front 7 look like this in run defense. And it was the complete inverse of last year when the Colts played the Texans in both matchups. Honestly, it was every time Bobby Slowick called a run play against the Colts last year, it was, thank you so much. Thank you so much for gifting us with a free down, with gifting us with a free stop so we can have fewer CJ Stroud throws against our defense. In this game, it was, please let CJ Stroud throw because every single run is killing our defense. So fantastic game plan by the Texans to switch that up in a whole year like that and just massacre this defense like this. But the Colts are not going to win many games this year whatsoever if this trend continues. And with DeForest Buckner now dealing with a back injury, who knows how much? I mean, if Taven Bryan's a starter, this is going to be a trend going forward the rest of the season. But yeah, pitiful showing in the run game. I'm fine with CJ Stroud killing you in the passing game because he's a good player. Like, I'm not saying Joe Mixon's not a good player either, but like, good quarterbacks are going to get theirs. But to get beat up like this in the ground game, it's demoralizing. It takes the ball away from your young quarterback. I mean, the Colts it was 40 minutes of possession for the Texans.
40 to 20.
Yeah, yep. 40 to 20 in this one. The Colts had 4 offensive snaps the whole third quarter. Like, you can't win that way. Like, you cannot win that way whatsoever. So the run defense, something needs to change there. I don't care if you have to go to base defense again. If you have to go to 3 linebackers out there, like, you cannot have performances like this on the ground. You can survive a quarterback throwing the ball on you. You can't survive never getting the ball back to your offense and allowing them to run for over 200 yards on you. It's just not a recipe for success. And heck, at the end of the game, they had a chance to get the ball back to their offense twice. And they couldn't get off the field on the 3rd down pass. And they just couldn't stop a run when, hey, the Texans were going to run the ball. The Texans, like, you put all 11 guys run committing there. And come on, like, it's just, you can't win games this way whatsoever. And we can't even use the Taven Bryan excuse like we could for games last year where it's all Taven Bryan's fault because, yes, Taven Bryan was bad when he got out there, but Grover Stewart was out there too. DeForest Buckner was out there too. All these guys on the defensive line outside of Laiatu Latu are on second contracts. Guys at linebacker are on second contracts, getting paid big money. You got to make some stops in the run game. So, yeah, just an abysmal showing from the players on the field. I'm not trying to give Gus Bradley a pass either. Like, he tried to come out playing a lot of nickel and sitting back against the pass, and because of that, they got run all over too. But it's just an embarrassing showing by a defense that talked a lot of crap all season about this matchup.
Yeah.
To get bludgeoned like that on the ground, it's kind of embarrassing. But
no, that is definitely the embarrassing part of it all.
Yeah, it's about our young quarterbacks, so we can still be optimistic going forward. But like, oh man, I would rather allow 700 yards passing than allow 200 yards on the ground. It's so embarrassing. It's so embarrassing for your defense. And yeah, I mean, again, hats off to the Texans, man. We said all week the Colts had the advantage in the trenches on both sides. That's how the Colts are going to win this game. The Texans beat the crap out of the Colts in the trenches on both sides, and that's why the Colts lost.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. And if this goes into Green Bay next week, a team that's going to have to run the ball because they're not going to have their quarterback, they may have to quickly make some personnel changes. I don't know. Like, we're both going to rewatch the game a time or two again, but like maybe they have to switch up safety again, and Nick Cross has to be, in the strong. I mean, I know Julian Blackmon is a very reliable tackler. I think he led the team today. But you may have to make adjustments like that to also account for the deep ball part where you mentioned Nick Cross turning his head around, but also like Segun Alubi being out there, when it comes to run defense as well. I, offhand didn't really see how Jalen Carlisle did, but if the other linebackers aren't going to run defend well, like there's just going to have to be personnel moves that are made. And again, that's stuff we're going to have to get a closer look at here when we can take a look at the film. But I'm confident they can get it fixed because this is normally a pretty good run defense when Grover's in there. I mean, there's a huge asterisk there. But yeah, DeForest Buckner, who knows with this back injury, what the prognosis from that is. So this could be pretty unchill.
Yeah, I will say this because to close the book on this, obviously we're going to have our film breakdown tomorrow, like where we talk more about the film in depth and stuff like that. But to kind of close it out for tonight, they took an AFC contender to the wire. Everything wrong aside from their young quarterback playing crazy in the second half. Like, they did everything wrong. They didn't convert on the interception chances. They got just destroyed on the ground, destroyed in the trenches. They got out-coached. They were on the negative side of the turnover differential. Like, the Colts did everything wrong in this game. But luckily, week one, it's hard to really like week one is the most crazy weeks in the season. So hopefully you can take what you did wrong in this game, hopefully tweak it a bit and come back stronger next week. It's okay to lose to the Houston Texans because they're a really good team. But if these issues continue next week against Malik Willis and the Green Bay Packers, then we'll have a more serious conversation. But overall, Anthony Richardson put the team on his back and gave the team a chance to win. Alec Pierce put the team on his back, gave the team a chance to win, but need much better showings from the trenches, from Shane Steichen, from the rest of the defense, from some other players on offense, and obviously more consistency even from Anthony Richardson too. Needs to be a lot better going forward, but it's not the end of the world yet for the Colts by any means. It's week 1 of 17. Their quarterback has not even had 5 starts in the NFL. Like, it's not the end of the world for the Colts. We are being rough on them right now, but there's still plenty of football to be played this season. A lot of things to build on. I'm glad that they were able to get this exposure to a good Texans team early, and we'll see where they can go from here. But that's all we have for today, guys. We'll be back with you guys tomorrow. Don't worry, after we get a chance to look over the film, we'll talk about some more plays in specific detail and really dive into the nitty-gritty, hopefully of just the offense, because I don't know about you, Jake. I don't really want to watch the defense tomorrow, but we'll see. We'll see.
Have to. We will talk to Shane and a couple of the players tomorrow, so we'll be able to fill in a little bit with what they had to say as well.
Jake will give us an in-depth breakdown of the defensive film. I'll talk about the offensive film, and there we go. That'll be it right there. Before we get out of here, though, I do want to remind you guys that our friends over at Locked On NFL now have 2 shows every single day, featuring Tyler Rowland in the morning and then Tony Wiggins for some real NFL talk afterwards. Add in the Locked On local experts, and you get unprecedented NFL insight in 30 minutes. It's the new Locked On NFL, and it's twice a day. Make the madman Tyler Rowland and the barber Tony Wiggins your second listen over at Locked On NFL on YouTube, wherever you listen to your podcast. If you guys don't already, make sure you're following at Locked On Colts, at Jake Arthur NFL, and at Zach Hicks2, all on Twitter. Also subscribe to us on YouTube, wherever you listen to your podcast. We'd love your guys' ratings, reviews, and we'll catch you guys back here tomorrow afternoon.